Disney might be the king of animation, but even royalty slips up when you pause at the wrong moment. First, drum mix-up in Lilo and Stitch. In Lilo and Stitch, there's a surprising mistake that you might have missed. Early in the movie, we see a group of drummers playing identical drums. But after Lilo tells her strange story about Pudge the fish, something weird happens. One of the drums changes, it's no longer the same as the others. This small but noticeable mix-up is a funny detail, especially when the rest of the scene seems so well put together. 2. Jasmine's bracelet swap. In Aladdin, there's a moment near the end that's hard to miss. After Jasmine pretends to fall in love with Jafar to trick him, something strange happens with her gold armband. At first, it's on her right arm, but when Jafar shoves her down, after realizing the trick, the bracelet is suddenly on her left arm. It's a pretty noticeable mistake, especially since the scene is so intense. And it's surprising how something like this can slip past during all the action. 3. Judys' sudden turn in Zootopia. In Zootopia, Nick Wilde pulls a sneaky trick on Judy Hopps by getting her to walk into some cement. She gets stuck, and Nick walks away. But here's the twist. After Judy's feet are stuck, something changes. She was facing one way when she got stuck, but in the next shot, she's facing the opposite direction. It's a small mistake, but it's pretty jarring when you notice it. You'd think the animators would have kept her position consistent, especially during a crucial moment like this. 4. Vanellope's vanishing tooth in Wreck-It, Ralph. In Wreck-It, Ralph, Vanellope von Schweetz gets into a wild crash while testing her new cart, the Lickety-Split. The crash knocks out one of her teeth, which makes sense considering her sugary lifestyle. But here's where things get weird. Just moments later, that missing tooth is magically back in her mouth. It's like her tooth never even fell out. Either Sugar Rush has the fastest dental care, or this was an animation slip-up. It would have actually been pretty funny if this kept the gap, adding to Vanellope's quirky character. But they chose to fix it fast, likely to avoid having her talk with a lisp for the rest of the movie. 5. Hercules' flower fail. In Hercules, there's a moment where the mighty god throws red roses to show appreciation for the heroes. But here's the problem. When Phil catches one of the flowers, it's not red anymore. Suddenly, it's yellow. On top of that, it's also turned inside out. How does that happen? It's a pretty jarring mistake in the middle of the action. The color change and flip are hard to miss, and it's one of those small errors that make you wonder how it slipped past during animation. 6. Inside Out 2's Twin Trouble. In Inside Out 2, there's a strange moment during the hockey game scene. In the crowd, you can spot two identical men sitting on opposite sides of the stands. They look like they could be twins, but they're seated so far apart. And here's the kicker, they're wearing the exact same clothes. This can't be a coincidence. It seems like Disney reused the same character model to fill up the crowd. They probably thought we wouldn't notice, but once you spot it, it's impossible to unsee. 7. Boo's laugh power glitch in Monsters, Inc. In Monsters, Inc., Boo's laughter is a game changer. Her giggles are so powerful that they cause a huge power outage. But here's the problem. Boo laughs a lot throughout the movie, so shouldn't the whole city be in constant blackout? It turns out that the filmmakers knew this was a problem, but chose to ignore it. They said it would have been too hard to tell the story if there was a power outage every time Boo laughed. It makes sense, but it's still a glaring mistake. And that's not all. During the climax, Mike and Sully jump through doors around the world, but the time zones just don't add up. 8. Beauty and the Beast's age. Confusion. In Beauty and the Beast, there's a timeline mistake that raises serious questions. The Beast was cursed by an enchantress when he was 11, and he has to learn to love someone before his 21st birthday. But here's the problem. Belle finds a portrait of the prince as an adult human, even though he's been a beast for all these years. How could this be? It's a huge inconsistency, and it makes the curse seem a bit extreme. Cursing a kid for being rude? The timeline doesn't add up, making this magical curse a little less believable. 9. Toy Story's toy blunders. Toy Story made huge waves as Pixar's first feature film, but even this groundbreaking movie has a couple of mistakes. One glaring error happens during the scene where the army men use a baby monitor to report back from Andy's birthday party. The issue? They're holding the wrong half of the monitor. The handheld part only works as a speaker, not a microphone. So the toys in Andy's room wouldn't have heard a thing. Another odd moment occurs when Buzz Lightyear first meets the toys. He insists he's a space ranger, yet when Andy and his mom walk in, he freezes like all the other toys. If Buzz truly believes he's not a toy, why would he act like one? Seems a little out of character for the galaxy's protector. 10. The Lion King's wild mistakes. The Lion King is a classic, but even this beloved film has its mistakes. One of the most confusing is Nala's eye color. When she's a cub, her eyes are green, but as she grows, they change to blue. Except in a few scenes where they're green again. Eye color can change with age, but these sudden shifts don't make sense. Then there's Timon's quick costume change. During the climax, he appears without flowers, but when he turns around, he's wearing them. Talk about a fast transformation. Lastly, some animals in the Pride Lands don't belong. You'll spot leafcutter ants anteaters, and tailed primates, species that are native to South and Central America, not Africa. A small detail, but it's enough to make you raise an eyebrow. 11. Moana's disappearing act. Moana is full of magic and wonder, but there are a couple of strange mistakes in the mix. At the start of the film, when Moana is still a little girl, we see a fish imprint left in the sand. But just moments later, it's gone, without any explanation. Then there's Maui's hook, which is supposed to have shape-shifting powers. In one scene, Maui is holding it, but in the very next shot, it vanishes. While it's likely an animation error, the idea of a disappearing hook seems a bit much. 12th, Turning Red's locking gates mystery. In Turning Red, there's a strange moment right after May and her mom say goodbye to the visitors. The guests leave, the gates close. But here's the thing, the locks appear to fasten right after the gates shut. The problem? We only hear the sound of the gates closing, not a single sound of the locks clicking into place. How could they be locked that fast without anyone noticing? 13th, Encanto's disappearing acts. In Encanto, there's a dinner scene where everything goes haywire with the family's powers. Here's the thing. At one point, the center of the table is completely empty, but just seconds earlier, it was loaded with food. There's no way the Madrigal family can just vacuum it up that quickly without anyone noticing. Then, in another scene, a ball suddenly appears next to a guitar, only for the ball to vanish in the next shot. And during the song that introduces the family, Abuela's boa just disappears into thin air, while Isabella's flowers appear. It's a wild mistake, but let's be real, it's pretty funny too. 14th, disappearing motorcycle and umbrella. Mystery in Elemental. In Elemental, Ember pulls off a major surprise when she suddenly whips out a large umbrella while chasing Wade. But where did it come from? She's just in a dress, so how did she have an umbrella ready? The mystery deepens when Ember parks her motorcycle outside her family's shop, but it vanishes in the next scene. And this isn't a one-time thing. The motorcycle disappears again when she parks it outside Wade's apartment. It seems like this bike has a mind of its own and loves disappearing for fun. 15th, shadow slip-up in Pocahontas. In Pocahontas, there's a strange mistake with the shadows. During a scene where Pocahontas and Nakoma walk hand in hand, their shadows don't match up. They're clearly not holding hands, but the shadows are showing something different. It's not just a historical blunder, it's a shadow mistake too. The film gets criticized for its lack of historical accuracy, but it turns out it also missed the mark on how shadows work, not the kind of thing you'd expect from Disney. 16. Mulans Tea Trick. In Mulan, there's a wild mistake during the matchmaker scene. When the matchmaker's backside catches fire, Mulan grabs a pot of tea and throws it right at her. Miraculously, the tea puts out the fire but doesn't burn her face. While it's a funny moment in the film, in real life, pouring tea on someone's back would not have the same result. If something like that happens, we recommend the classic stop, drop, and roll instead. 17. Tangled's missing shackles. In Tangled, there's a surprising mistake in the final scene. When Flynn goes to cut Rapunzel's hair, you can clearly see that his wrist is locked in shackles during the wide shots. But in the close-up, those shackles completely vanish. It's a huge continuity error that doesn't make much sense. How do shackles just disappear like that? Maybe the magic of Rapunzel's hair works a little too well. 18. Frozen's hair and shadow mishaps. In Frozen, there's a bizarre hair mistake. When Anna and Kristoff are speeding down the mountain in the sleigh, Anna's hair is blown all over by the wind. But when the camera zooms in, her hair is perfectly still. The sleigh is still moving fast, so how did it go from messy to neat in an instant? It looks like another case of continuity fail. Then, during Love is an Open Door, Anna and Hans dance on a lighthouse, but their shadows float in mid-air. Shadows don't work that way. Lastly, at the end, Hans somehow pulls a sword out of nowhere while Elsa is retreating. No sheath, no warning. Where did that sword come from? 19. The Little Mermaid's sneaky mistakes. The Little Mermaid may be a classic, but it has some glaring errors. When Ariel sneaks into bed at the castle, there are no blankets, yet in the very next shot, she's wrapped up. How did that happen? Then, when Vanessa, Ursula in disguise, steps on a bottle in Prince Eric's castle, it mysteriously appears in the shot before she steps on it. The surprises keep coming. During the Kiss the Girl scene, Eric suddenly loses his oars. He used them to row to the lagoon, but now they're just gone. Did he toss them into the water? If so, bad move, Eric. Mr. Incredible's GPS glitch. In The Incredibles, there's a hilarious scene where Mr. Incredible changes into his superhero suit in his car. But here's the problem. The car's GPS shows it's right near Adeline Street, yet the car keeps speeding ahead, while Mr. Incredible takes several seconds to change. When the GPS pops up again, the car hasn't even passed Adeline Street. What's going on? Was the car zigzagging? It would have been easier for Mr. Incredible to just pull over and change. 21. Cinderella's dress mix-up. Cinderella has some iconic dresses, especially the one she wears to the ball. But here's a shocking mistake. After the wedding, Cinderella is seen running down the steps in a long-sleeved gown. But in the next scene, while she's in the carriage, her gown has mysteriously turned into a short-sleeved version. Was she just getting ready for the honeymoon early? Or did the animators forget to keep track of her outfit? 22. The case of the missing clipboard. In Inside Out 2, something strange happens outside the coach's office. Riley and her friends are talking, and you can clearly see a notebook and a clipboard sitting nearby. But in the very next shot, the clipboard is gone. It doesn't come back until much later, when Riley sneaks in at night. So where did it go? It's like the clipboard just walked off and came back on its own. Unless someone quietly moved it off screen, this looks like another blink and you miss it animation mistake. These Disney slip-ups prove even the best animations aren't perfect. But here's the real question. Do these mistakes ruin the magic or make it even better? Tell us what you think in the comments.